Will Drickus du Plessis move up in weight to take on Alex Pereira and potentially become a two-division champion once upon a time? Hello, everybody, and once upon a time in the future. Well, hello, everybody, and welcome to Against the Fence. This is the place to be if you're obsessed and passionate about the UFC and the sport of mixed martial arts. We're back with another Aftermath show. Bit of a rush, actually, getting this one sorted out because my scene selection's completely messed up. So we're having a nightmare, but we're here. We've managed to pull things together. So, yeah, well, there's lots to be talking about. We're going to talk about Carlos Prates. Prates is path to the top 15 after beating Li Jingliang this past weekend. We'll talk about Dan Hooker calling out Charles Oliveira. We'll talk about the perfect fight for Israel Adesanya next. Do make sure you stay tuned for that one because that's a big one that we're going to go to talking about. And of course, we'll talk about du Plessis' chances against Alex Pereira. So welcome on in. Smash a like on the video if you've not done so already. Hit the subscribe button if you're new to the channel as well. And let's get things kicking off, shall we? Few honourable mentions from the prelims. Do you know what? I didn't really catch too many of the prelims. Was falling asleep, resting up, ready to put on a bit of a show for you guys who are staying tuned for the watch along. Did get to see Walter Walker defeat Junior Toffer though, which was a little bit of a controversial stoppage. The referee stopped it quite early, I do think. Let's go, Ash. Yes, let's go, buddy. Chats aren't coming up as well now. That's good start. Actually, that's because it's not on this scene as well. Here we go. Hopefully that works. No, okay. Hopefully they work on the other scene. Yeah, welcome on in. Where was I? Yeah, that was a bit of an awkward stoppage in my opinion. I think that he should have. It was kind of a verbal tap, which was kind of weird. I think he was going to tap anyway, but Tuffer didn't really seem too kind of bothered about the stoppage at first, and then he did then later complain. So I don't know, that was an odd one, but Walter Walker looked like a madman anyhow. Ricardo Ramos, close fight against Joshua Kulubar did get that one. I think the right person won on that card, in my opinion. But yeah, that's all I got to see of the prelims, to be honest. If you got to see the prelims and there was any that stuck out in your minds, make sure you let us know in the comment section or in the chats as well. Yes, George Murray in the house as well. I need to get these chats up, man. Honestly, none of my browser sources are working today. So that's why I had to stick with the old school layout over the top. Let's see. Yeah, nada. Yeah, that's weird. Anyhow, okay, well, I'll read them out manually then. If they pop up eventually, they pop up. But if not, then we're just going to have to make do. That's small for now, shall we? Yeah, welcome on in, George. Welcome on in. He says, yes, yes, JK, what is good? Van Shat, its pants looks like an expensive bill incoming. Don't know what you're on about there, mate. 3027 bam bam all the way. He says as well. Bam bam. Bam 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 bam. Which one's for Taito Avasa. No, Rosenstreak. I don't know what you know what you're on about, mate. I'm really confused. Yes, smash a like on the video, buddy. Good to see you in the house as always. Oh, your van's broke. Oh, sugar. Is it you're not a work van? Oh dear, that sucks, man. I'm sorry to hear that. Get on with the show. Let's recap some of the events then, shall we? From the main card. If I head on over, does this work? Yes, it does. Oh, that's the wrong one. There we go. That's the one I want. Oh, George says, I'm joking, JK. God must be upset about United being pony. Do you know what? I thought you was having a pop at me about that first. I must admit, I did think you were. I was expecting it. I'm surprised actually you knew that Yeah, first kicking off the main card, Carlos Prates, man, what an absolute animal this kid is. Honestly, he is so exciting to watch, and I can't wait to see more of him down the line, because that win against Li Jingliang was very impressive. Coming into this fight, did feel I said to Ash, I was like, he needs to get a finish in this one. And Ash was like, Li Jingliang's not been knocked out yet in his career. And I was like, oh, damn. And I was like, if there's one guy to do it, it is this Prates geezer, because he is on fire at the moment. The straight left for him was just money the whole time. He wasn't throwing the knee to the body like I thought he was going to, because, you know, in his fight prior to that, you know, he landed a crisp knee to the body, which was able to put away matey boy from Team Alpha Male, Charles Radke. I thought we would see a bit more of it, because Li Jingliang is another southpaw fighter, so it was orthodox fighter. So it was kind of open for him all day. But we 100% need to see him against a ranked guy next. I can't wait to figure out who that's going to be. If you guys in the chats or the comment section have got a rough idea of who you want to throw him in there next, get them in down below, because I've got two options for you guys. George says, is it true this bloke smokes like a scaffolder? Literally, he does. I know. He was like getting fags out in this Pros Fight interview, in the Pros Fight press conference. Like, he's entertaining, man. Honestly, I think he's one to watch out for. The UFC should let Jing wear his suit for 279. I'm sure he's made better use for it again, to be fair. I'm sure he's made use for it. But yeah, these chat things aren't working. It's so annoying. I pasted them all in, but that's it. We're just gonna have to roll, folks. We're gonna have to roll without your chats, I'm afraid. Yeah, so back on for my options then for Carlos Prates. I've got the loser of Neil Magny versus Michael Morales. I think that makes sense. Both guys will be ranked either way. So that makes... Actually, no. Only the winner will be ranked. So unless it could be it could possibly be the winner, because if you look at it this way, if Michael Morales beats Magny, he takes his ranking, then he might need to defend the ranking afterwards. On the flip side, Michael Morales and Carlos Prates are very good two up-and-coming guys. And you don't really want to pair them up against one another, really. If you're the UFC, you got to get competition coming through. So both of those guys will probably get some of the older heads who are knocking off a little bit. If you're not going to give him a ranked opponent, you'd probably give him Michael Chiesa, who's coming for a win, of course, against Tony Ferguson, which was not long ago at all. Now, if I hit this button here, now we're into the rankings. So no updates here. I said during the watch on, I was hoping he was going to get a ranked number next to his name. Kevin Holland still sits at 15, even though his last fight was at 185. Got to get him out of there, I think, and put in some of these newer bucks like Carlos Prates, you know. Ash says, yeah, it was a great finish, and I see this. He is a 30-pack a day smoker. Mad. Yeah, it kind of reminds me of GSP's old kickboxing coach, which I think has been seen in a picture with John Jones lately. Throwback to tough season 12 kind of days. The guy who just literally drank loads, smoked, and still kicked everyone's ass, which is crazy, really. You know, you get those guys. I think Carlos Prates might have said, I'm not an athlete, I'm a fighter. So, you know, and I guess it kind of comes from the old school Thai days as well, because a lot of the Thai folks used to smoke as well, which is mad when you think of it. You know, surely that's doesn't do you any good at all. Ash says, I said Lee was looking old as well. Yeah, you did say he was looking old. Yeah, that is true. But as for the Leech then, I mean, looking at them, like, if you want to give Prates a ranked guy straight away, you're looking at like a loser of the upcoming kind of cards, really, aren't you? Like a Jeff Neal, if he will lose again. I mean, I use Jeff Neal a lot in these aftermath shows. I feel like I'm discrediting him a little bit, but I'm not. You know, he's got some skills. He's fallen on hard times and against some of the best of the guys. You know, that's it. Jeff Neal or RDA. Loser of either of those could introduce him into the rankings very well. Especially RDA as well. Got solid Muay Thai. You got Muay Thai versus Muay Thai. A former champion against a young buck. That's another good one for Prates. But yeah, other than that, hard really for the UFC to match him up against someone. And that's kind of why I put Michael Chiesa in there. As for Li Jingliang, though, what are you saying, Ash? Champ's still there, says Leon. Well, that's no, it doesn't. What are you on about? It's Bilal there, mate. Oh, and the name tag. Yeah, that's one for Mr. Brown. That's for size doing. You're right. He does look a bit funny for the champ there. Anyhow, back to business. Yeah, Li Jingliang, I've only got one option for him at the moment. That would be against Kanon Song, which I think people may have said on social media. He's a guy who's just beat Ricky Glenn this past weekend as well by decision. Both guys are Chinese. Put it in an Asia card, perhaps. I think I did feel sorry for the Leech, really. It's a tough opponent to come back to when you've been out for some time. Maybe he just needs to stay active. He could be somebody who just kind of, the ring rust is real for. And I think it definitely did show that against Carlos Prates, to be honest. Smash like on the video if you've not done so already, guys. George Murray says Wonder Boy versus Buckley, loser. That's another good one. Yeah. Difficult to say who's going to win that fight. You'd think that Buckley would probably be a strong favourite in that. Wonder Boy, you think Buckley's style kind of suits Wonder Boy in a lot of ways, you know, an aggressive power puncher. But Buckley can mix things up, you know. He might want to try and use a bit of wrestling against Wonder Boy, because that's the one thing that has proved to work. And Wonder Boy's 40 years old now, you know, he's way past his prime, and he still, I think, believes that he can reach for the stars and get himself back into top 5, but I think it's pretty difficult. But yeah, George, I like that option. Either of those guys would be good for Prates, and it gives him a big stepping stone as well, which I think he probably needs for somebody who's coming on, who's on a bit of a finish streak at the moment. No one remembers the name, says George Murray. That's a good point, actually. That is referring to the name tag there in the rankings. Yeah, that's all we've got then for the first fight on the main card. If we take ourselves back then, and let's bring up the second option. That's why I need to bring down the previous option. Yeah, so Jairzinho Rozenstruik picking up the decision win against Tai Tuivasa. Not surprised. Actually, no, I am surprised that it went to a decision. I think we all kind of expected a finish in this. But Jairzinho just kind of, he was great at avoiding any brawl-like scenario. He dealt with the low kicks pretty well, I think, which Tuivasa seems to bring quite a lot in his fights. And it's a good win for Jairzinho to get himself back into the top 10 now. You know, if we look at, you know, he just stayed technical the whole time, to be honest, and went to the body really well, I felt, mixed it up with his strikes up top. And it's kind of what we said during the breakdown prior to the fight. And did work, man, did work. But the question is, what's going to be next for him? We bring that down. There we go. Yeah, what is going to be next for him? I think, personally, good fight for Rozenstruik would be marching to Bora, who's come for a win recently as well. So that makes sense. They've not fought each other either. Oh, no, sorry. Tobora's coming for a loss against Spivak. Sorry, yeah. They're both head-to-head in the rankings. 9 versus 10. I think either Tybora gets flattened. No, I think Rozenstruik either gets flattened by Tybora, or he kind of keeps it on the feet, clips him, probably puts him away. Maybe. That's what I can see. Because I can see Tybora securing takedowns. Really can. I think it's a fight where he can do it. George Murray would like to see Spivak next. Yeah, winner versus winner in that sense, I guess, makes sense. They've not fought before, have they? No. No. I knew somebody's fought Spivak once upon a time. Yeah, Spivak's a good one. Number 7 there. Supposedly, it says on here, tied with Stipe Miocic. So Stipe's fallen even more down in the rankings, despite fighting John Jones, who's the champion next. Crazy. We'll leave that one for another show. Yeah, Spivak, another good kind of guy who can take people down and put a bit of a beating, ground and pound on the floor there. Good matchup. Good scrap, I reckon. Fight advantage for Spivak in that one. I think Tybura and Rosenstruck are probably about the same height. But yeah, good one. I mean, I always wanted to see Derek Lewis against Jairzinho Rosenstruck, but Lewis is now paired up against Alexander Romanov. If Romanov pulls out, the UFC know what they need to do in that fight. But then they might be hesitant making that fight because Derek Lewis against Francis Ngannou was hesitant. Both guys like to throw down, so I see why. Maybe stylistically it's a nightmare, but both guys are big. They like to slug, man. Also, I think Jairzinho beats Derek Lewis as well. As for Tai Tuivasa, he's still a fan favourite. Do you want to keep him around still? I guess so. Is he going to be the heavyweight Tony Ferguson? Very possible. I think the UFC are going to be praying that he gets the finish in his next fight by a knockout. George Murray says Almeida versus Sergey. Yeah, do you know what? That is a good one as well. I think that's one we probably mentioned previously. So, and Almeida called for that fight as well. So that's probably the reason why I've not got Spivak in my list for Rosenstruck. But for Tuivasa, I think he needs a bit of a step down. In the rankings, he's now slipped down to 13, gone down to 3 spots. Marcus Rogerio de Lima versus Nzechukwu winner, perhaps. That fight's taking place at UFC 308 in October 26th. Fair play for Nzechukwu. I think this is Nzechukwu stepping up in weight, isn't he? Because he was at light heavyweight. So, yeah, getting a ranked guy straight away. Either, I think that's a good one for Ty. Both guys are fairly flat-footed on the floor. De Lima's got some good boxing. He's got some good jiu-jitsu as well. Takedowns, meh, okay. But it's a good one for Tybura to put his hands on someone, I think. Or for both guys. And Nzechukwu got a bit of a height advantage, mind you. He also likes to kind of get the trip, take his opponent down, and just grind out a TKO victory. So, yeah, if you're Tai Tuivasa, you got to hope that De Lima pulls through in that fight, personally. Ash says, mad we still ain't seen Derek Lewis versus Rosenstruck. It really is. But like I said, I don't think the UFC want to make it stylistically. I think in hindsight, both guys have headlined fight nights. So it would make sense, well, to put it as a fight night headliner, but then do you really want to make it 5 rounds? Personally, I'd put it third on the card of a pay-per-view, perhaps. I think that's a better suited for that fight. But yeah, that's basically all I've got for the heavyweight division. Lots coming your way. We'll talk about Izzy Adesanya in a second, how he bounces back after that loss against Dricus du Plessis. We'll talk about a lot of other things as well. Of course, what's next for Dricus du Plessis, whether it should be Alex Pereira next or whether it should be someone else. Bit of a question I asked in the fan discussion before the pay-per-view card this past weekend, and a lot of mixed opinions on that. So yeah, that was a good show, man. Probably really enjoyed that one. But let's go back then to the... I'll get rid of number 1 every time. God. Third fight on the main card between Mateusz Gamrot and Dan Hooker. Now, who was surprised about this fight, the outcome? Heavy favourite was Mateusz Gamrot. Should have arguably beaten a Dan Hooker who has been up and down in previous fights. Of course, he got steamrolled by Arnold Allen, which was his last loss. Prior to that, he got tapped out by Islam Makhachev, but was on an impressive 3-fight win streak. One of them was against a grappler. And if you're if you're Mateusz Gamrot and you've beaten arguably the next guy in line for the title shot, you should be beating Dan Hooker, right? A lot of things factored into that fight, which didn't, which was quite unfortunate, I feel. But, nothing to take away Dan Hooker's performance. His movement was really good, and he had great timing with his kicks to the body. Really like those. He did a good job at scooting his hips back when Gamrot was shooting in for takedowns. When he got his butt to the mat, anyway, the first thing, initial reaction was scoot those hips back and not allow Gamrot any kind of, or just to give space between him and Gamrot, so Gamrot couldn't really control him much. But part of that success, I think, may have come from the fact he rocked Gamrot quite early in the first round. Hooker's striking as elite, man. Definitely one to still keep an eye on in this division. I think people are making a bit of comparisons now to Charles Oliveira, who we're going to get into in just a sec, because Charles Oliveira was somebody early on in his UFC career, was falling on hard times, a bit up and down the division. He got tapped out a few times to guys he probably shouldn't have done. He got knocked out a couple of times and made that massive rise ever since kind of having a birth of his first child. And can Dan Hooker do the same is the ultimate question here. And has called out Charles Oliveira. Blonde fighter versus blonde fighter. Both guys like to bleach their hair. The new Dan Hooker has had success against 2 grapplers now in his last 3 fights. Claudio Puelles was the first person, bit of a leg lock specialist, lacked the wrestling, I guess. But Hooker passed that test with flying colours. He passed the test against Mateusz Gamrot with flying colours. So I think for someone who's a bit of a fan favourite, just gone up 6 spots, a call against Charles Oliveira is the best call you could possibly make, in my opinion. And he's shoot his shot. Because Oliveira, when you look at Oliveira, the guys that he's already fought, they're quite recent. In and around that top part of the division. Let's actually take us into the division then. There we go. That's what we want. Yeah, if you take a look there, you've got Charles has already fought, just lost to Sarukian. He's beaten Justin Gaethje, beaten Dustin Poirier, beaten Michael Chandler. Of course, is still gunning for the fight against Conor McGregor. Beneil Dariush would be a fun one for Oliveira, but does Dariush deserve to fight up after coming off of 2 straight losses? Oh no, they've already fought. My bad, ignore that. Oliveira head kicked him into oblivion. So they've already fought. Gamrot's come off a loss as well. Below that, you've got Max Holloway. And no one's going to get a big jump. So Charles must take a fight against Dan Hooker. However, Charles could also serve as the backup fighter for Makhachev versus Sarukian. That could be an option that he's perhaps waiting out for. We still don't know what's going to happen now because Makhachev is going to be out because I think he's got a hand injury. He's not going to be back at the end of the year. And I think the UFC were praying that he was going to come back for the pay-per-view card in Abu Dhabi. So, and that's, I think, part of the reason why the UFC have made Alex Pereira against Khalil Roundtree, because headlining the Abu Dhabi card is Holloway versus Topuria. Right? So 307 would have been the ideal pay-per-view card to put Topuria versus Holloway on, and then you put Islam Makhachev Sarukian in Abu Dhabi. So yeah, it's a bit of a knock-on effect there. Tried best to explain it the best I can. But yeah, Oliveira needs, I think, a Dan Hooker fight. And Dan Hooker, man, he's going to find himself, you know what, ones to watch, man. Next year, who knows? Or is it too soon? Is it too soon? Because for ones to watch, when we do these videos towards the end of the year, we like to pick guys who are going to make a bit of a rise in the rankings. But nobody would have picked Dan Hooker as their one to watch at the start of the year. I don't know, guys. What do you think? George says Gamrot versus Fiziev 2 is next for him. Yeah. I've actually got that one on my list for him. It's either that or it would be the winner of Moicano versus Benoit Saint-Denis. Unless, of course, Paddy Pimblett gets either one of those. Breezy says, I think Charles smashes Dan. Morning, by the way. Morning, Breezy. Breezy says, would be well up for Dustin Poirier versus Dan too. Do you know, anyone would be up for that. And do you know what? It says it's a really good fight, to be fair. It makes sense. I've not written it down because Poirier's another guy who's kind of in limbo at the moment in the top part of the division. He's fought near enough everyone. He still feel like he's got some in the tank because, you know, he smashed Benoit Saint-Denis in impressive fashion and probably does deserve to fight a new contender. So, yeah. And do you know what? I don't know, man. It's a good one. Yeah, that's that. I think that's a fight that they couldn't very well make if they are going to make Oliveira serve as the backup to Makhachev versus Sarukian. The other fight I actually had for Dan Hooker would be the BMF title fight if Max Holloway was to lose against Ilia Topuria. Because, look, why wouldn't you? Both guys are BMFs. However, Dustin Poirier, I think, could go ahead and claim that instead. Right? You know, when we talk about rematches for Dustin Poirier here, would you rather he rematch Dan Hooker? Would you rather he rematch Max Holloway? Especially if Max Holloway coming off that win against Justin Gaethje for the BMF belt. Personally, you know, Max Ilia does make me so excited. It's probably the most exciting fight to come in the next few months. Let's be honest, right? But I do kind of, part of me feels like Max should have just continued this BMF run, you know, fighting lightweights. Because he looked so good against Gaethje. Why would you want to then cut back down to 145 and, you know, deplete yourself? You know, especially at an older age. Yes, Tuto, brother, Tuto, I missed you, man. He says, yes, JK, yes, Ash. Can't get your chats on screen at the moment because everything's just falling apart over here at HQ. So, yeah, apologies for that. We'll fix that in due course. And also, these things haven't been dragged across, which is very weird. So yeah, what do you make of these options? And of course, smash a like on the video if you've not done so already, guys. Get your comment section down below. If you've yeah, there we go. Get your comments down below if you like any of these matchups, or if you've got any of your own that you would like to share with us. Then do let us know. I mean, we'll try and reply to most of these comments as best as possible as well. Because, of course, fan opinions matter most here Against the Fence, and you come to the right place if you love talking about the sport and you're passionate about the sport. Yes, Canadian Bacon, I see you in the chats as well. Good afternoon, where you are, sir. Breezy says, wow, come on, we have Cum Shot getting out in the hospital bed to fight Bobby Knuckles coming up. If it happens. Tutu says, JK, sorry couldn't participate last Saturday live stream, mate. No problem, brother. No problem. Good to see you back. But yeah, were you able to catch the fights at all? Good to see you in the chats here, brother. At least. But yeah, I think they're pretty much my options. You know, Gamrot for me, it's a bit of a setback for him. He did secure 5 takedowns out of 15, and he's seemed to kind of struggle to control these 155ers. For a guy who's very good at chaining his wrestling, like his wrestling is legit, but he does struggle against 155ers. Mateusz, you must drop to 145 next. It's a must, right? And I've just given you some lightweight options in Rafael Fiziev or the winner of Moicano versus Benoit Saint-Denis, but I'm also going to throw in an option for featherweight. You know, if he does decide to move down to featherweight, who would you guys match him up against in the division? Now, I've not got the rankings for you, but I've got 2 options which I think would be good in terms of like comparison of where he is in the lightweight rankings at the moment and the featherweight rankings. I think you'd either give him number 7 Josh Emmett, or I would give him number 9 Calvin Kattar. Either one of those guys we're yet to see return to the octagon. Because unless, I mean, I can't see him getting the winner of Movsar Evloev or Aljamain Sterling. Sterling loses, it's a little bit tough. He could welcome Gamrot down, but bit of a hard one for Sterling, seeing as though he's just come up from bantamweight, right? So that's why I kind of hold off on that option. But I think he 100% needs to do it. Tuto says, JK, last Saturday was our season opener away match, and we bagged our first win. It was massive for us, mate. Well, congratulations, Tuto, on getting your first win of the rugby season. Hope things keep on ticking on, and you keep smashing people, mate. Smash like on the video whilst you're here as well. Canadian Bacon says he could do it. I don't know, but that might be a hard cut for him. He would have to reduce his overall natural body weight. He's not what really would really call a small lightweight either. I don't know. He's 2-division champion at KSW, so I think it's possible that he can do it. I mean, yeah, it has been a while, and of course, time is getting on. He is 33 years of age. I think we've seen worse people make cuts. If he was to take some time out first, then perhaps it would make a bit more sense. You know, if Dan Hooker can make it, so can Gamrot. And we see how tall Dan Hooker is for lightweight. And the fact he sucked down, he looked horrible at featherweight, you know? And I think that Gamrot's not the tallest of guys at lightweight as well. He's 5'10". That's not bad, actually. Which is crazy. I don't know, maybe it's because he's very like hunched over in his stance. I mean, you know, when was the last time he actually made featherweight? It was, oh my god, it was actually some time ago. Featherweight, oh, is it featherweight? He's only had one fight at featherweight, KSW. Oh wow, so he actually defended the lightweight belt and then went down to challenge for the featherweight belt. That was back in 2018. Wow. Okay. Yeah, problems break. To be honest, in my head, I had a feeling that he had quite a large number of bouts at both weight classes for KSW. All right. Canadian Bacon says, however, he did go down. I would like to see him versus Cater or Emmett, so he agrees with me that. Likewise, much respect to Toe. He says, how do you make some good points there, JK? I think you can definitely do it as long as he's confident in the cut. Yeah. Test cuts first. Baby steps, I would say. Yeah, I'm all on for that. Yeah. They're my options for Mateusz Gamrot. I mean, it's a shame really to see him lose because I do think he's very skilled and very talented, and his striking has been coming on quite well as well. Maybe he can kind of come into a bit of a new chapter in his career. All right, let's talk about then the co-main event. Oh, wrong one. There we go. Why? Really set another thing up for that. Co-main event. There we go. Co-main event, of course, bit of a surprising one there. I think a lot of people went for Steve Erceg in this one. You know, but Kai France, he was a bit of a must-needed finish, I think, for him because, like I was saying during the watch-long, really did not like his performance against matey boy Albazi. Really looked a shell of himself. Good to see that him getting the finish. You know, he's 31, still growing in the sport as well. Man, the way he set that left hook, that left hand over the top was gnarly. It was a bit reminiscent, I said it at the weekend, to the way that Tyron Woodley put people down, you know, or I think actually even made comparisons to Johnny Hendricks, you know, against John Fitch. You know, the way he flew back as well, where he kind of pump faked that right hand over the top and ducked his head for any potential jab counters, and then landed that left hand nicely over the top, which put Steve Erceg away. I don't think Steve Erceg had been finished in the build-up to this fight as well. Yeah, never been finished. So props for Kai France for doing that. Two options for him now. Of course, he could very well wait out to fight the winner of Pantoja versus Albazi. Kind of makes sense. If Albazi beats Pantoja, then if I just tell you what, let's go into the rankings now, shall we? Oh, that one's gone missing. Got half of that one. Let's bring you back over here, mate. Bring you back over here. Bosh. Complete circuit. Hello. Yeah, as we can see then, if Albazi was to win, who it would be next in line for him? You'd have to rematch Kai France. And I do kind of think that this division is getting a little bit stale. However, Brandon Moreno, recently in the news, has said that he's willing to come back in December. So I'm excited to see that. I hope he does. And I don't know if he said whether or not he would return to flyweight. I'd like to see his chances at bantamweight for a brief period, you know. But then you also got to think about what's next for him, because I don't think there's a lot of options for December. You've also got Brandon Royval versus Tatsu Taira taking place. Now, Kai France lost to Brandon Royval back in 2020 via rear naked choke. Got himself caught there. So he could very well hunt for a rematch. There's going to be a lot of rematches in this flyweight division, I feel. I think that Manel Karp deserves a bit of a person up in the rankings, perhaps. Alex Perez is coming off a loss as well. I think a lot will reside on the fight between Mateus Nicolau and Anzu Almabayev. But personally, for that option, I'd probably like to see Steve Erceg fight the winner of Nicolau versus Almabayev. That fight takes place on October 19th. So maybe the winner... Royval's coming off of that close decision win against Brandon Moreno. If Tatsu beats Royval, Tatsu's there though. You know? Surely you can't do Kai France against Brandon Moreno in a rematch. You just can't. You know, options are really dried up in this division. It's a shame. We need to see more people coming through. Like, Tagir Ulanbekov needs to make jumps. Bruno Gustavo da Silva needs to make jumps down at 13 there. He's on a 4-fight win streak. Let's see some big jumps. I think maybe perhaps some of those guys might get an Alex Perez or a Manel Karp. I'd like to see Manel Karp fight up in the rankings, to be honest. If he's just lost against a guy you cut, then what's the point, you know? And this is the problem. Makayev, now, we need Makayev more than ever in this division. We do. Some may have said he was boring, but he got late finishes. Late finishes are exciting, especially in back and forth fights. Yes, he's not a Dagestani guy who's completely wiping the floor with people like your Islam Makhachevs, your Khabibs, etc., etc., etc. But you could argue, I don't know, that fight, these last two were quite a bit lackluster. And I guess, in a way, he put himself on that pedestal because he was trying to gun for being the youngest ever UFC champion, and maybe he did have a bit of a chip on his shoulder, and that could be the reason why he fell out with the UFC matchmakers. So yeah, you know. Canadian Bacon says, "Lol, no more voice to chat for me." I don't know what you're on about. Are you on about the pop-ups of the chats? Because I can't actually get them. I can't get them up tonight. Don't know why. Can't get it up tonight. Just can't. Never have that issue, but you know. Canadian Baker says, agreed, JK. Every division eventually goes through the same kind of thing. The division is aging, but some young stars are starting to break through. Yeah, it's true. And look, I did kind of speculate that the UFC would get rid of the division, getting rid of Makayev, but I think that was more before more was coming out about Makayev's behaviour with the matchmakers, you know? Because it was a bit of a shock, right? He decided not to renew his contract. But yeah, I think they need him more than ever. That's kind of my take. So yeah, for Kai France, then I'd give him, perhaps he could be a backup for Pantoja and Albazi easy. You know, if you're Kai France, you'd want to do that. But if not, then you could very well get a rematch with Brandon Royval. Because Brandon Royval, if he gets a win against Tatsu Tara, he's going nowhere as well. You know, he fell short against Pantoja. Needs to rack up a bit of a win streak if he wants to get another crack at Pantoja. And look, I don't think there's going to be many fights left for Pantoja in this division. I really don't. He's nearly wiped it all out. You've got to hope that Tatsu makes a breakthrough. You've got to hope that Kai France is the next man after that. You know? If then you Pantoja move up in weight. You could make a case for bantamweight title fight, but I think that depends on who has it, personally. Because if it's Sean O'Malley, then he's not going to be fighting. Oh, actually, but then again, there is a bit of a story between O'Malley and Pantoja, isn't there? So, yes, he might do it, but you know, if you put side to side, Sean O'Malley and Pantoja, right? Out of those two, who deserves, keyword deserve there, to fight up and challenge for another belt to become a 2-division champion? Got to be Pantoja, right? He's near enough clean the division. However, on the flip side, in terms of overall hype and fan excitement, it's Sean O'Malley all day, right? To fight Ilia Topuria. You know, that's the next level type of fight. But of course, he's got to get past Merab Dvalishvili. If Merab captures gold, then you do Pantoja versus Merab. It's a good fight. Good fight. But Pantoja, I think, has got to get a bit more muscle mass if he wants to take on Merab. Merab's going to be relentless, and I can't see Pantoja catching Merab in any... I mean, the thing is with Pantoja, he's very good at scrambling as well, but I just can't see him attacking these submissions against Merab. I really can't. So yeah, smash a like on the video, guys. That's kind of been my piece towards this co-main event. We're on the last stretch now of these matchups, and there's a lot to talk about with these two. There really is, because Dricus du Plessis got the win against Israel Adesanya. Submission, round 4. Now, he said in a post-fight interview, I think, that standing his ground was key in this fight, and that Adesanya needed to change his approach coming into this fight and kind of control the center and dictate the rules of engagement more. And this kind of caused him to use up a lot of energy. And Dricus, this kind of, you know, displays good fight IQ in a way from Dricus's side. He's really done some studying on Israel, and you know, you could see the moments in the fight where he kind of blitzed forward to reclaim the center and push Izzy back. You know, and also was able to secure takedowns. I personally felt that Izzy won rounds 1 and 3. The judges didn't see it that way. They had the complete opposite. Would definitely need to rewatch that fight back. But for Dricus, then, he's called out Alex Pereira. Wild call. I know it becomes a frequent kind of thing on this show now. We talk about the guy fighting up in weight class. It's kind of been a bit of a pattern. But it's also, we've got to talk about things that have come up in the MMA media. You know, we've got to talk about these things. And they are exciting. So we've got to think about the what ifs. But for me, it will depend on the outcome of the Roundtree fight. I think a lot of people, I'd imagine Pereira's going to be a heavy favourite, given the fact that Roundtree is just coming off of a win against Anthony Smith, who's arguably way past it. Also, Dricus's coach was calling for the UFC to make this fight in December, and it's the biggest kind of fight for him right now. So why wouldn't you call for it? Now, I can see this fight perhaps happening. Well, I don't know. It's an option for the UFC if they're not able to make the Conor McGregor versus Michael Chandler fight, because that fight will likely take place in December, right? Conor wants it in December. And yeah, last fight of the year, why not? But if that isn't the next move for Dricus, then how many title defenses does he need in order to earn this fight with Alex Pereira? How many, guys? Because it was something I kind of talked about in the fan discussion that we had last Monday, you know, Dana White has said that he's kind of confirmed that Sean Strickland is next in line. I can kind of almost see Dricus having a similar title reign to a Kamaru Usman, perhaps, where he just kind of keeps on getting rematches and I guess Izzy fell down that path as well, because they were incredibly close fights and maybe future contenders don't come out of anywhere. If I go on then to the rankings, no changes, of course. Just for reference purposes, the only person that is coming through is Khamzat Chimaev, if he gets through past Robert Whittaker. But Khamzat is not really reliable, is he? Let's face it. So he's got to rematch Sean Strickland. He's been promised that fight. Strickland has been promised that fight. But personally, I think the UFC could very well do Dricus versus Strickland 2 in December instead of McGregor versus Chandler. I think that would probably be the likely option for me. As for Israel Adesanya, I'm going to go back to another scene in a sec. Gets a chat from Canadian Bacon who says, I think they need to start seeking more talent from the East. When it comes to these lighter weight classes, there are so many great Asian fighters, yet the UFC barely signs any comparatively. Yeah, I mean, yeah, you're right. I mean, you could suggest, I mean, I haven't watched this past season of Tough at all. I couldn't tell you what weight classes there are. It just didn't really interest me, if I'm honest. But yeah, a Tough season with flyweights would make a lot of sense. But at the same time, did you not want to just sign them all? You know, sign them all. That's what I would say. But yeah, that's a good point. Back onto Israel Adesanya then, in terms of what's next for him. He could very well get Chimaev as an option. If Robert Whittaker was to pull out of the fight once they eventually make that fight. Because that's the only one for Izzy, really, when you look at it. All right, you know, there are some options depending on outcomes in the next few weeks' fights. But I guess the kind of question I wanted to kind of ask, I'm going to go back to the scene here. The main question I kind of wanted to ask about Izzy is, what is the one fight Izzy must take before rematching Alex Pereira? What is that one fight? Because Izzy is currently on a 2-fight losing skid for the first time in his MMA career. His path back to middleweight gold has never looked any steeper. He's already fought most of the options in the top 8 of the division, apart from Nasruddin Imavov and Brandon Allen, who are scheduled to square off on September 28th in Paris. Yes, he's the last man to beat Alex Pereira, but Izzy needs a win under his belt before the UFC make that rematch, right? Because otherwise it just doesn't sell. So if you're Hunter Campbell, then what's the most winnable fight you could give Izzy that would guarantee him a title fight against Alex Pereira in the light heavyweight division? Guys, get in the comment section if you've got any ideas, but maybe you've thought of the one that I'm about to give you. You know, it's very well possible, but get them in anyway. Insert Yuri Prohaska. Now, Yuri isn't the biggest of light heavyweights. This has been known and what people have said in the MMA space when they see him in person. He's ranked number 1 in the division. Izzy has fought guys who I believe are better wrestlers than Yuri. And of course, wrestling being Izzy's struggle in some ways, is least defined discipline. So that shouldn't be a big factor, right? In that fight. Yuri's a very creative striker. It could be an issue for Izzy, but that's also what makes Yuri very hittable at the same time. Could Izzy score the knockout in that fight or win a comfortable decision? Do you guys feel like this could be an easy fight for Izzy? Or do you think that Yuri could be a good chance has a good chance in this one? He is also a former champion as well. Let us know in the comments section, guys, because there's a lot to go through. I personally think that is Izzy's one ticket, and that's all he's got left. Of course, like, don't get me wrong, Chimaev is an intriguing fight, wrestling heavy approach, but for Izzy, what left have you got to give in this middleweight division? You know? He's got an incredible number of fight miles under his belt. He's 35 now. He's hit the 35 curse. So, but I think Yuri is very hittable. And, you know, a win against Yuri catapults him into title contention. If we look at light heavyweight, I mean, I've not got the rankings to show you guys. If you look at light heavyweight, like Magomed Ankalaev is in the dark at the moment. The UFC just don't want to give him a fight. If Ankalaev beats Rakic, all right, he's technically a 2-fight win streak because he's taken away that draw against Jan Blachowicz. Jan Blachowicz is really annoyed that Khalil Roundtree is getting the fight because he feels that he deserves a rematch with Pereira. However, he's also coming off of a loss and needs a win under his belt first. And I think the UFC are done with giving Alex Pereira rematches in the light heavyweight division already. Again, you know, Pereira's in a similar situation to Dricus in a way because not many contenders are coming through. Same Pantoja, of course, as well. So, yeah, Jan desperately, you know, but at the same time, we could very well see Yuri versus Jan Blachowicz next. And I wouldn't be surprised if they do make that fight happen next. But if you're Hunter Campbell and you're the UFC, you got to be at least praying that Prohaska fight against Izzy gets made. Personally, I think Jamal Hill versus Jan Blachowicz would make sense. Make them fight each other. Then at least you got a potential backup fighter or a rematch again with Pereira if no one else is there. Canadian Bacon says, bring in Jason Wilness. He has an MMA record of 3-3 currently. He has suffered some setbacks due to injuries in fights. If Izzy beats him, he can avenge his loss in kickboxing. Maybe, but is it a desperate one for the UFC? A guy who is 3-3. I guess you can bring him up. Just bring him up through the Contender Series. Is Jason Wilness not past the point of coming to MMA? Canadian Baker says Wilness has also beaten Alex Pereira in kickboxing twice, so that could use that narrative to give him Pereira fight. Yeah, I mean, look, with Vakatov is another option, which we've got a video on about. You know, they're going to want to try and fast track him, but I don't think we're there yet. We're at least, you know, 2 years away from that potentially. Canadian Bacon says Yuri would kill Izzy, I think. Ooh, counter argument here. He says Yuri had a lot of success when he chose to wrestle against Pereira in the first fight, plus the power. I don't know, that fight makes me nervous for Izzy. Yeah, no, that is true. That is true. I just don't think that on the flip side of that, I think Izzy's actually got better takedown defense than Alex Pereira. All right, you know, Jan Blachowicz was able to get Izzy down quite well and looked pretty easy at doing it. But when we look at Izzy in his actual division, his takedown defense has been pretty good. He was unfortunate against Dricus, I feel, you know. But yeah, let us know, guys, what you think in the chat section, in the comment section as well. Thanks for joining in on this live video. As always, make sure you got the notifications bell rang on our channel as well, because there'll be lots more coming your way. This weekend, we'll be doing a live watch along for Jared Cannonier against Carl Bahalio. Some interesting names on that main card as well. We've also got the tough finale as coming through on that as well. So yeah, lots to go through. Of course, look out for any fighter Q&As as well, because we might get some booked up for next week. Some exciting ones. And if you've not done so already after this video, make sure you check out the Q&A I just done with Hakeem Dawodu last night. It's not as long. It's nice, quick, and sharp and short. He was a cool guy, very serious. He's in the zone at the moment, hoping to get on that Edmonton card. So make sure you guys check that out straight after this live stream, before you go to bed, before you rest up for the night, or whatever have you, or just now, straight after this. Canadian Bacon says, I do agree with you. I think he does have better takedown defense. Like and subscribe, join the ATF Nation. Exactly, do exactly what Canadian Bacon says in the chats there. Much love, guys. We'll see you in the next live video. Ciao for now. Bye bye.